Greetings my cousins. We're going to make bread. Now I've not made this bread before. This is what we call a quick bread. Now it's not made with yeast. And it's not made with wild yeast and bacteria like sourdough. This is quick bread because the leavening agent is baking soda. And there's 4 ingredients: flour, baking soda, salt and buttermilk, because we're going to make some traditional Irish soda bread. So I start with plain flour, 420 grams, and I'm going to add to that 3/4, get the lumps in it, of a teaspoon of salt, and so let me go back over there, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda. 1, 2, 3. And that is all the dry ingredients. So I'm just going to mix these together. Now you'll need your oven on, because not only is this a quick bread to make, you've got to be quick, because when we chuck that buttermilk into there with that baking soda, it's going to start the reaction. And what we don't want to do is let all that gas, all that carbon dioxide escape. So I'm just going to make sure I'm all ready, that my oven's up to 230. I've got a baking sheet, or whatever, a bit of baking paper on there, and got some flour to lay on the surface. I've got a sharp knife or a lame, and my dough scraper if I need it. So let's get on. This bread, made, like I say, it's a traditional Irish soda bread. During the 1880s, they were using so much baking soda, sodium bicarbonate, that literally the price sort of doubled. You just couldn't get a hold of enough baking soda. So anyway, this is going to go into there. Out of the way. Now we want to quickly mix that in. Now the buttermilk, because it's sour as it were, that will contain lactic acid, a bit like actually sourdough, and that will react with the bicarbonate, which is why we need to try fairly quickly get this all combined. You don't want to over knead this bread. First sort of known documented recipe appears to be about 1836. Okay, and there's a strong connection with America, the United States, with obviously the Irish there. And what we've tended to find is that I said to you, traditional soda bread, trying to get all the bits off these, I don't come off. Traditional soda bread just consisted of them 4 ingredients. Just trying to get all that flour mixed in. And then we're going to turn it out and shape it into a loaf. Yeah, so in America you will often find it with caraway seeds in it, raisins, sultanas, and they will tell you that that's your traditional soda bread. But soda bread, the traditional one, is essentially just what we're making here. Now I'm having a bit of trouble getting the last of this flour mixed in there. Once we've created it, it's not actually as wet a dough as I thought it was going to be. We're going to shape it into the traditional round, like loaf if you like. But another way was more of a flattened bread. Check that out. A flattened bread that was then sometimes cooked on the hob, on the stove top. We're not doing that. Unlike normal bread dough, this doesn't seem to want, I don't know whether it's just because it is actually a little bit dry, it doesn't seem to want to, normally as you knead it, it cleans your hands up, doesn't it? But this ain't working like that. So I'm trying to get this all coherent. I'm not really going to need to flour my surface, I don't think. Worries me that this might be a little bit dense. Bit like me really. But the other traditional thing is, regardless of whether it's a round or the flat thing divided into four, generally, I think I'm going to pretty much leave that like that, is what was often done. Transfer that onto there. What was often done was you scored it across the top with a cross, and that was to ward off evil spirits. So now this is going to get whacked into that oven, and we're going to cook it in there for about 15 minutes at 230, and then we're going to turn the temperature down. So I'll get that in there. Now while that's having its first 15 minutes, and I had a quick clean up, a quick coffee, and I'll say to you about the shape of it. The round shape like we've created with the cross on top is typical of Southern Ireland. Northern Ireland, it was more triangular shaped flatbreads. So you'll flatten it out and divide it up into triangles, and they were known as a fal, and they were often, like I say, cooked on stove top or on a griddle. Now, the reason they took off so much is the fact that the baking soda works really well with what we call soft wheat, and a significant portion of wheat that the Irish used during the sort of famine times, things like that, was actually shipped in from America, which made a lot of soft wheat, and hence it helped with their ability to make this quick bread. Now, it's not just the Irish, I did say to you obviously America, or the American Irish, but the Scottish also do it. They make a variety of what we call soda breads. Some of them on a griddle. They might refer to them as bannocks or fals. In Scottish, or Scots will refer to a fal as a quarter, because remember we're sort of almost in a way quartering that loaf. They might be called soda scones or scones, soda fals. And then, interestingly, sometimes they would mix them with oats. So you get your, almost like an oat cake. Now, the original Scottish ones wouldn't have actually had baking soda in it anyway. They would have been unleavened bread. But obviously once baking soda became more available, this was a way of getting that rise. And the Serbians make them as well. But they quite often make them for Christmas time and other celebrations, and a bit like an English Christmas pudding, where we'd put a sixpence or threepenny bit inside, and whoever got that, was the lucky one. They do a similar thing in Serbia, where they might put a coin or a treat inside the loaf, and so when it's all divided up, and sometimes it would be put there in front of the families. The family will gather around the table, they will tear it to bits, hoping to find a treat in it. It could sometimes be decorated on top with just patterns, symbols, whatever. So there you go, that's really it about it. So we're just waiting on that 15 minutes. Like I say, I'm going to then rotate, drop the temperature, and then we'll probably cook it for about another 25 to 30 minutes. We want it to look a nice golden brown. And then we'll whip it out the oven and let it cool. Let's just see what it looks like. It's sort of rising. It seems to be not literally pulling apart across. I can't really show you very easily, but it is sort of separate. Well, we'll see when we beat it out. I'm whipping on and on. So that's had about 30 odd minutes. Let's get it out the oven. Let's have a look. So, sounds hollow. You can see how it's all distorted. You can't actually see that cross on it anymore. But what we're going to do is we're just going to set it on there, and we just want to let that cool for at least 20 minutes. Now, it's probably nicer when it's warm. So in about 20 minutes or so, what we're going to do is obviously try it out. But there you go. That's the baked Irish soda bread. Let's have a little taste now. Obviously I'm just cutting out that sort of knobbly bit. You can see bubbles in it, you can see where it's risen. It obviously looks more like a cake than it does a bread, simply because obviously that's what it is really, isn't it? If you think about it, it's not got any sugar in it, so it shouldn't be sweet, but obviously it's not got that yeast and it's not got bread flour. But let's have a look taste. It's a little bit moist because I think it's still warm. Crust is obviously quite hard. I wouldn't say burnt, but you're getting that sort of slightly burny taste from the crust. Definitely tastes salty. Right. Let's see if it's marked a little bit. Oh, a big bit of matter. I see it looks like cake. Don't like it tastes like cake. I think it's better when you get some slices rather than, or some wedges. At the minute I've got sort of an end bit, a lot of hard crust on it, but very tasty. So there is your traditional Irish soda bread.